There are decisions you should be able to make. Career moves, relationships, whether to stay or leave. Nothing is urgently wrong. No crisis, no clear danger. And yet, the choice feels impossibly heavy. You think about it for days, then weeks. Then you avoid thinking about it at all. Not because you don't care, but because every time you get close to deciding, something inside you resists. Why does something so simple feel like it carries the weight of your entire life? Problem deep dive from the outside. It looks like indecision. But internally, it doesn't feel like confusion. It feels like pressure. You imagine choosing one option and immediately feel a strange sense of loss. You picture saying yes and feel anxiety. You picture saying no and feel regret. So you delay. You research more. You wait for clarity. You tell yourself you'll decide when it feels right. But it never feels right. Because this isn't just about the decision. It's about what the decision says about who you are. You start asking questions that have nothing to do with the actual choice. What if I become the wrong version of myself? What if I close a door I'll never reopen? What if this locks me into a life that doesn't fit? This is why even small decisions can feel existential. You're not choosing between options. You're choosing between identities. And your brain treats identity like survival. So let's remove one assumption right now. You are not bad at decisions. You are not weak. You are not overthinking because of a personality flaw. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's trying to protect the most stable thing it knows, your sense of self. In psychology, humans are deeply motivated by something called self-continuity, the need to feel like we are the same person across time. Not because consistency is logical, because consistency feels safe. A big decision threatens that continuity, and your brain reacts to that threat the same way it reacts to physical uncertainty, with hesitation. But to understand why, we need to look at what's happening underneath the feeling. Your brain doesn't experience decisions the way you think it does. It doesn't evaluate them like a logical checklist. Instead, it runs something closer to a prediction engine. In neuroscience, this is often described as predictive processing. Your brain is constantly asking, if I do this, what kind of world will I wake up in tomorrow? And more importantly, will that world still feel like mine? Here's the metaphor. Imagine your brain as a map maker. Every experience you've ever had builds a map of reality. How people respond to you, what you're good at, where you belong. Small decisions adjust the map. Big decisions redraw it. And the brain hates redrawing maps. Because unfamiliar territory means higher cognitive load, more uncertainty, and historically, greater danger. So when a decision implies a major identity shift, new role, new environment, new expectations, your brain sends out resistance signals. Not now. Wait. Gather more information. Stay where things are known. This isn't laziness. It's an energy conservation and threat detection system working together. Another mental model helps explain this. The brain prefers a predictable pain over an unpredictable outcome. Even if your current situation is unsatisfying, it's neurologically efficient. The unknown requires rewiring. And rewiring is metabolically expensive. So the weight you feel, that's the cost of rewriting identity. The solution is not to force yourself to decide. That approach usually increases resistance. Instead, you work with the brain's design. Here are 4 principles grounded in behavioral psychology. Step 1. Shrink the identity gap. What to do? Frame the decision as a continuation of who you already are, not a transformation. Why it works? The brain accepts change more easily when it preserves self-continuity. This reduces threat signaling from the amygdala. Example, instead of thinking, I'm becoming someone new, try, I'm extending a part of myself that already exists. A career change becomes an expansion of curiosity, not an abandonment of your past. Step 2. Decide the direction, not the forever. What to do? Make decisions reversible when possible. Why it works? Research in decision science shows perceived permanence increases cognitive stress. When the brain sees flexibility, it lowers defensive resistance. Example, instead of this must be the right choice, frame it as, this is the next experiment. You're moving, not locking in. Step 3. Limit the simulation loop. What to do? Set a boundary on how long you evaluate. Why it works? The prefrontal cortex can endlessly simulate outcomes, but more simulation doesn't equal clarity. It often amplifies uncertainty, a process called analysis paralysis. Example: give yourself a defined window. I will think about this intentionally for 3 days. Then I act. This tells the brain the evaluation phase has an endpoint. Step 4. Act before the identity feels ready. What to do? Take behavior first steps instead of waiting for internal certainty. Why it works? Behavioral psychology shows identity often follows action through self-perception theory. We understand who we are by observing what we do. Example: you don't wait to feel like someone confident enough to start. You start small actions, and the brain updates identity afterward. Action becomes evidence. Evidence rewrites the map. All of this comes down to one simple model. Big decisions feel heavy because your brain thinks you're changing selves. But in reality, you are not switching identities. You are updating them. Like software, not demolition. When you treat decisions as irreversible declarations, the brain resists. When you treat them as iterative adjustments, the brain cooperates. The weight doesn't disappear because the choice gets easier. It disappears because the choice stops feeling like an ending and starts feeling like movement. You may never reach a moment where a big decision feels light. That's not what growth feels like neurologically. It often feels uncertain, a little disorienting, a little unfinished. But that heaviness isn't a warning sign. It's a signal that your internal map is expanding. You don't need to become completely sure before you move. You just need to allow yourself to remain the same person while taking one step into something slightly unknown. Because identity is not something you protect by standing still. It's something you shape by continuing. And sometimes the most honest decision is simply the one that lets you keep going.